Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the PowettPlay Podcast. It's me, John and Shannon, and joined by Kieran Powell as always. How are you, mate?
Not too bad. Traveling. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. Thank you very much. This episode, we're going to be looking at the first test against New Zealand. You'll be picking your 11. We'll be looking in terms of the T20 World Cup and the groups that have been selected, as well as obviously some of the players within we expect to be there and stuff. And also the Super 50 that wasn't a Super 50. We're sure we'll be covering that. But in terms of the in terms of the first test that starts Monday, um, what are you looking for as a well? Shall I name the 11 that you selected and then break that down
Yeah,
from there?
yeah.
So from the 11 that you selected, you've gone with John Campbell and Tajan Shandapol opening, Alec Athanaze at three, Brandon King at four, Shea Hope five, Cameron Hodge at six, Roshan Chase seven, Justin Graves at eight, Kemar Roach nine, Anderson Phillip at 10, and then Jaden Sales at 11. Talk me through your 11 thoughts around that.
Yeah, I thought the first point of contention was the wicket keeping spot.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think Kevin Imlach played the last test match, but I don't think it's a situation where the West Indies are going to be too overly burdened where Shea won't be able to keep and still perform his duty as a batter. I think
right,
that
okay.
going forward next year, I'll probably have Imlach as the main keeper and alleviate Shea. But I just think for the challenge at hand in terms of New Zealand,
Yeah,
I think that it should be okay because as we've seen from the ODM matches, the pitches were relatively spicy. Like the ball did do
yeah,
a lot
yeah,
in white ball cricket throughout the game, which is generally not the case. It generally settles
yeah,
down quite quickly. So that was interesting. I mean, obviously you're adding in the pitches are going to be left a lot greener. You're talking about a red ball that does
yeah.
more. Don't expect teams to be batting 150 overs, if that's
No,
the case.
yeah,
I'm not expecting it to be the first test match of England versus Australia in the Ashes, but I don't expect teams to be batting for, you know, more than a day, four sessions type of thing. So that's fine. That's not too heavy a workload. The second point of contention for me was either playing another specialist, out and out fast bowler.
right. Which,
Let's say in the likes of a Johan Lane.
yeah,
But I thought that Justin Graves is bowling well enough for me
yeah,
to be the fourth seamer,
yeah,
and obviously his batting is an added plus if you're looking at him as a fourth seamer. He's an out and out batsman as well, so that lengthens your batting and you can get the likes of a Kavim Hodge who can bowl a
yeah,
bit of left arm spin to help cut some overs from Roston as well. So you've got, in
yeah,
my opinion, a more balanced team based on this as opposed to going, let's say, four out and out seamers and Justin Graves and Roston. I think that this lends to a better balance in terms of two spin bowling options and not just too many fast bowling options with everyone not getting a fair chance to have
yeah.
enough overs.
If he was to go with the extra out and out quick that you mentioned, so a Johan Lane, say for instance, would that be potentially instead of a Cavum Hodge, and then
Yeah,
everyone
that's
moves up a spot?
basically just what I
Yeah,
mentioned. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I think like you mentioned there, it is going to be well. It did if it's doing a lot like it did in the ODI series in the T20, it's going to offer us a lot from that perspective, and that's where I'm looking forward to seeing, obviously, from the likes of Jaden Seals and Anderson, Philip and Kemar Roach, especially back to see what they can get out of it. It is from using, well, having Kemar Roach back in that side will give him that experience as well. And then from that perspective, Jaden Seals, I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do, especially with that top order of New Zealand. It's a very, very solid 11, what New Zealand will put out.
Yeah, it is. Obviously, Kane Williamson is back, and that poses
Well,
challenges
yeah,
that you really don't want to have if
yeah,
you have the option. But I mean, it's
yeah,
good for world cricket.
yeah,
Obviously, one of the greats of world cricket, someone that in my opinion, is probably the second best Test batsman of his generation behind Steve Smith. So really, really enjoy watching Kane play.
Yeah,
I think that he's highly undervalued because New Zealand doesn't have
yeah,
a huge media or anything
yeah.
like that. But you look at his numbers, they basically more or less mirror what Steve Smith has done. So no, I think it's going to be an interesting series. You look at the likes of Devon Conway, Daryl Mitchell, Rachin Ravindra, Tom Latham.
Yeah.
New Zealand have been a good team for a long time, very experienced team, very settled team, and it's not going to be easy as we've seen
No.
in the ODI and T20 series. Even when you think they're down and out, they'll find a way because of their experience. And then Matt Henry, if anyone's been
Yeah.
looking at cricket closely, has probably been. I mean, you have the likes of the Bumras, etc. But Matt Henry has probably been the best seam bowler in world cricket in Test match cricket
So
for
consistent.
past 12 to 18 months. So
Yeah.
it's going to be a stiff challenge facing him in home conditions. But I guess that's where the depth in batting going down to eight sort of helps West Indies in this situation.
Yeah, definitely. And then from that batting perspective, it's going to be obviously vitally important. And one of the things that we spoke about consistently in terms of the white ball series is players getting starts and then getting out. I think that's one thing from a batting perspective is that if any of that top six get into a 20s and a 30s, they've really got to make that stand on the game and use that role, especially at the top of the order, to try and anchor that innings to then allow, to be able to post a score for the bowlers to be able to go at really.
Yeah, I think it's in particular the top order are gonna have to do a lot of hard graft.
Yeah.
It may not be something that they're rewarded for in the sense of going on and getting hundreds or whatever the case is. But if they can see off that first
Yeah.
30, 40 overs and allow numbers five, six, four, five, six,
Yeah.
seven, eight, where you've got sort of the bulk of your batting to come in and play against a ball that doesn't have as prominent a seam and isn't doing as much. Mind you, it will still do something throughout, but it gives them a better chance.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be a situation where they're facing like a flat pitch, like what they did against India in the second
No.
test match, you know? So there will be challenges posed to them, but I mean they've been there for some time now,
No
and
excuses really from that perspective.
yeah, and this sort of leads me back to at the start of the year when I said that the West Indies should play on flatter pitches at home. You look at what the West Indies did against India in that second test match. Now, I'm not saying that the West Indies would have won more games or whatever the case is, but I'm pretty confident the batters would have had more confidence playing
Yeah.
against world-class bowlers because you're playing in conditions that are more feasible and more suitable to what they're used to if you play on flatter
Yeah.
pitches at home,
Yeah. Yeah.
giving them the opportunity to bat for longer periods,
Yeah.
score more runs, be more confident playing against these types of bowlers, like what ended up happening in India. I mean, you look at New Zealand, who went to India, beat them
Yeah.
3-0. You look at South Africa, who's just beat them 3-0. That's because India have prepared the pitches in terms of making it spin friendly.
Yeah.
I think that the West Indies, if the other two Joses were fit on the tour of India, would have had a better chance of beating India, not because of, let's say, their wicket taking in the series, but I think that India would have gone and made the pitches a bit more spin friendly, and our spinners would have come into play a bit more and given us a bit more opportunities, knowing
Yeah.
the threat of the fast bowling attack,
Yeah.
which is basically what's happened with New Zealand and South Africa.
South Africa. Yeah. Yeah.
So, those are small things where West Indies have missed opportunities throughout the year to
Yeah.
sort of capitalize, whether it be player health or I guess preparing conditions that are more feasible to the type of players that you have at this point in time. Because you have to remember as well, a lot of these guys are coming back from playing a host of white ball cricket. So
Yeah.
getting back with fitness to stand on your legs for such extended periods of time to bat that amount of balls or sessions when you haven't been doing that, you've been playing 50 over T20 cricket, requires you to have as flat a pitch as
Yeah.
England do in
Mhm.
England, and you
Mhm.
see them rack up big numbers. When you get onto spicy pitches, then you figure it out as again England have to.
Yeah.
But it's giving yourself the best chance based on the squad that you have
Yeah.
ultimately.
I think that's where it's going to be important, in my opinion, for with based on the 11 that you've selected, that the West Indies do look at making sure that they bat this time as well. Because with the turn, if you, for instance, my going back to the England situation, what I felt that hindered England's performance and will have a massive issue is that you can't expect the bowlers to do what they do, have 30 over 35 or whatever is rest, and then go and do it all again. When you've picked, obviously based on your selection in terms of the three quicks, if you don't, if it's a turnaround again at quick time, the bowlers have got to do it again. You're going to obviously the workload management from a player perspective is going to be quite tricky. So that's when you're going to need the batters to really sort of help that situation a little bit because ultimately that's what New Zealand are going to want to do. If they go with the similar 11s that you selected there, is keep bringing get them to bring Jaden Seals back, get them to bring Kemar Roach back again, and get those overs into them, and then obviously that's when they can maybe take advantage.
I did tell you that England's way of playing is extremely flawed, from playing on flat pitches to the bowlers. Even when England score big runs, they don't bat for a day. And in Test
No.
match cricket, if you're bowling every single day, and these are again guys that have been injury prone as well. So
Yeah,
that method of cricket was, in my opinion, never good. It was never going to work against teams playing on proper Test match pitches,
yeah,
which are obviously a bit more spicy, or the ball spins, or whatever the case
yeah,
is.
yeah,
Um, so I think that the West Indies have to go into the first Test match thinking, how can they stitch some partnerships together?
yeah,
What is a good enough score? Is it
yeah,
300? Is it 350? How do
yeah.
we get
How
to
to
that
get
score?
there? Yeah,
Yep. And I think that a lot of that goes down to the top three, the top four, seeing off that first 40 overs.
yeah, and I think that's when like some of the shots have got to be they've got to be really specific in terms of some of the shots that they make, and then the ability again highlighting back England and going into the test here, talking about from a New Zealand perspective. The West Indies got to be able to leave the ball, understand when to build pressure, and when they're under pressure, should I say, to be able to ride that out and then build that partnership slowly to be able to post right. Okay, how do we get work backwards from it? How do we get to 300 and 350 to then allow the game to to fall in our favour really? But I am really looking forward to it, and I know you mentioned both Josephs. I would have loved to have seen them two in that attack here and with the pitches that we've seen as well in the white ball series going into this would have been. I would have really have liked to seen that go against that top batting order with a bit of something in it, but can't do anything about that. So looking at the groups that have been selected for the T20 World Cup. What were your first thoughts, and then also with the idea of them being all of the games being in India as well?
One would hope that the West Indies can get out of that group. I think it's England, Bangladesh, Nepal,
Italy,
and Italy.
Italy, yeah,
The West Indies just beat Bangladesh. In Bangladesh, I think the pitches will be um, flatter, a lot better, which, obviously they had to go to extremes
yeah,
in Bangladesh because of the types of surfaces that were being prepared. I
yeah.
think on flatter pitches, it sort of increases the margin between both teams. And I do think that West Indies is a better team than Bangladesh. So it's just a matter of winning, I think, three games to get through to the next stage to the Super 8. So
I
based on
yeah.
based on what I saw, I think that the West Indies, if they play well, I mean, obviously, we've got to beat Nepal, but
I'll put my head on the line. I think you'll beat England. I think the West Indies will beat England. I don't think England will be prepared at all for the World Cup.
it's a different team, though. It's a completely different T20 team then.
It is, but it's more to do with everything that comes with it from a side perspective. If they was to go, if they have a terrible Ashes, the press over here will absolutely come down on England cricket in general. And then you look at preparation, you look at the different. I appreciate what you're saying from a different group of players, but it does have an impact within the whole side when if England were to get stuffed in Australia. That's my opinion.
Well, sounds like England won't be making it out of the group stages.
I see what you're doing there with that. But I do think, though, that the way I see it is that with you playing Bangladesh first, I think I agree with the wickets being a bit flatter. I think it doesn't make it as tricky as it was in Bangladesh. Then they play in England in the second game, which let's have it right is the harder game of the four that they play, and then to finish with Nepal and then Italy, they're in a it's not a bad layout of fixtures in my opinion to get out of that group to see how it falls. Is the way I looked at it.
Can we read out our list of 22 probables for the T20 World Cup?
Absolutely. So bear with me a second. The So based on what you sent to me, you picked your squad, which
Not the
what?
squad, but these are the
Sorry,
probables.
yeah.
We haven't the
So
final squad.
yeah, the probables. So from an opener's perspective, you've gone with Evan Lewis, Brandon King, Kyle Myers, Johnson Charles, Ali Cathanes, and the middle order, Shea Hope, Shafane Rutherford, Rodman Powell, Amir Django, and then all rounders is Jason Holder, Romario, Shepherd, Roston Chase, Matthew Ford. Fast bowlers Alzari Joseph, Shamar Joseph, Jaden Seals, Obed McCoy, Jediah Blade, and then spinners Akil Hussain, Gudakesh Moti, Carrie Pierre, and Navin Badesi.
And I think I had added Akeem Ogis to that list as well. But I'll add one more as a outsider standout possibility.
Okay.
I think based on their performances in the CPL could add obviously a huge amount of experience to this team. Kieron Pollard,
Right.
obviously that's someone that's retired, but you look at this team and what it lacks. If he's still fit, which he is, he's playing in
Oh
the
yeah.
T10 at the moment. If he's available, if you're able to have a conversation with him and he's available, and you can probably get him to participate in one last tournament. I don't see why not. I think that he offers a skill set and a level of experience that the West Indies would so massively desire going into that World Cup. I don't think that the guys that have played have sort of shut the door on someone like him in terms of
Yeah.
performances as well.
Yeah, I
So I
do
think
get that.
that's where, yeah, I think that's where he can add a lot of value, a lot of experience. So I'd be trying to have that conversation now and see if that door is open, and if it is, I'd be walking through it very fast.
I get what you're saying because when you mentioned it there, my first thought initially was I feel though you need to honour the group of players. But what you're saying is right. Nobody really has stamped enough authority on that side to be able to turn around and feel that they're wrongly dropped, say, for somebody coming in. So in that respect, yeah, you're going to probably need that experience there that would probably make a massive difference to that side, especially in the games that are going to go down to the wire when you're going the experience is going to be it's invaluable in my opinion, especially in India where he's obviously played a load of cricket as well.
100%. So understanding of conditions. I think
Yes.
all of the West Indies games are in India. I think three of the five
Yeah.
group stages are in Mumbai.
Yeah.
So it's basically like picking him to play in Trinidad.
Yeah. So yeah.
It's backhand type of stuff.
So first and last in Kolkata, and then in the middle two in Mumbai. So, like you said, it's going to have that experience within that. Would you, with that in mind, if he wasn't going to open the door for him, would you look at getting him in from a consultancy perspective?
It's definitely on the cards. I think that he should be involved in some capacity.
Yeah,
Preferably, it would be as a player first and foremost, but
yeah,
if that's not an option, then definitely as a consultant, because you have to utilize these people that have the experience of playing in these conditions for 10 plus years,
yeah. No
He's
call.
he's as much he's as much an Indian native as he is a Caribbean native because of the amount of time and games and experience he has in those conditions. So why not utilize it? It's just like utilizing Martin Guptill for the early stages of the T20 series in New Zealand, or utilizing somebody else in different countries around the world.
Yeah. If you used to look at that's the probables that you mentioned there. Other than like the standout players as such, who do you see from a dark horse perspective, sort of coming out of that group of players to sort of maybe take that, do you know what I mean? Take that ownership in that World Cup sort of tournament where you think, is it from a dark horse perspective?
I don't think that right now anyone jumps off the list because the West Indies have played a lot of cricket
Yeah,
and these guys have gotten a lot of opportunities, but it's not that anyone has done anything to sort
yeah,
of say that they can sort of be like a dark horse or, like this guy has been, quietly accumulating in the background. I think obviously the batting is going to be led by Shea Hope and Rothman Powell from what
yeah,
we've seen throughout the year. Um, you're going to hope that you can get a Sherfane Rutherford and Evan Lewis or Brandon King back up to form. Um, you're going to hope that an Alzari comes back and has enough match time to fit into that bowling unit.
yeah,
It's going to be interesting to see how and if the likes of either a Mario Shepherd or a Matthew Ford get selected based on skill set,
yeah,
conditions,
yeah.
um, combinations. So it's a lot of things to play around with.
I think the combinations is one that they need to work towards for February in terms of understanding what and where and how it all fits together. Because from that, but I know we spoke before, and I don't want to keep going over previous pod, but this opening pairing is such an imperative role to get right.
I think that's across all of the formats for the West Indies in terms of the opening pair. But I just think on a whole, as I said, sort of since the summer, they needed to have like a stable batting unit where these guys are batting in these positions and give them all that run of games to know, okay, this is how we go about this. So you get into different situations. You lose early wickets,
Yeah,
they win. You don't lose early wickets. How do we come in and
yeah,
start quickly? So they would have had a lot more experience and understanding of how to execute their roles throughout the different phases of the game. Where I'm afraid that's not the case now. But um, at the end of the day, they're going to have some sort of preparatory camp where they can sort of try and execute different scenarios. And, guys are just going to have to go and play based on their experience and get the job done.
yeah. No, I'm with you on that completely. And then just to finish as well, I know we touched at the start. Obviously, we're looking at the Super 50. Um, pardon the pun, but it has been a real damp squib of a tournament.
Yeah, I think that the first point of contention for me is that knowing that the tournament was going to be a much shortened tournament because you removed the likes of a CCC and the academy,
Yeah,
and knowing that this is the rainy season in Trinidad, I'm not saying that not play the tournament in Trinidad, but I think that the West Indies board should have looked at playing the tournament next year as opposed to now.
right.
Once you get
Okay.
into a cleaner, clearer path of weather. So if, for example, your 4-day season or your 4-day round of games are gonna be March and that first week of April,
Yeah,
I think they could have had the Super 50, which is just a 10-day tournament, in January. Let's say the second, third week of January, get that out the way before Trinidad has Carnival. The tournament breaks then, and then you come back in March and you finish off. So then at least that way you have somewhat of a season as opposed to
yeah,
playing some games here, which I think it's something like 9 or 10 of 15 games got rained out. So and that's for me the frustrating part because okay, I look at it now, not from the lens of just a fan or West Indies cricket supporter. I'm looking at it now through the lens of like a Leeward Islands fan.
yeah,
And coming off of a Leeward Islands tournament that we talked about the lack of quality in that tournament.
yeah,
You look, but at least the guys were playing cricket, so you pretty much knew who the guys were going to be. The guys were
yeah,
playing cricket. They had a camp, and they were one of the only teams to complete so many matches in the tournament. I think they had 3 completed matches, and then
yeah,
half half a match or whatever the case is, rain affected. So let's say three and a quarter, 3.5 matches. And for them to be coming off of that much cricket when other teams, some teams had maybe one completed match. And for
Guyana.
the Leewards to, yeah, for Leewards to do so badly, to lose every single match like that, the Leewards came last after playing more cricket than pretty much everyone else in the tournament.
Yeah.
That is disturbing to me. Like, and as I said, I understand that it's a young team. I know that the bowling attack is extremely inexperienced. I know that the batting unit is young and is going to come together. I think that the batting unit has a faster track to success than the
Yes.
bowling unit
Yeah.
because I can't tell who's going to be in that bowling unit going forward.
Yeah.
Um, but having said all of that, my standpoint is looking at the amount of preparation that they had,
Yeah.
looking at the amount of game time they had in a tournament when teams were lacking playing opportunities, and for them to finish last is just is troubling.
Yeah, and I understand from your perspective, like obviously how you're speaking about that. It's frustrating. And but it's also incredibly frustrating that the Premier 50 over competition in the Caribbean is
Didn't happen.
didn't yeah,
It
and
basically didn't happen.
he didn't you know you're not something was to happen now in this 50 over squad. How are you supposed to select from this next group of players?
Well, I could tell you what, they can identify that the groundsmen are very good at pulling covers.
They know how to
That's
use a
that's been the
squeegee.
highlight. That's been the highlight. And the super sapper guy is very good at
Very
rolling
well
on one.
played.
But
But
in terms of selecting players, I think there have been two centuries in the tournament thus far.
yeah, I think it was Kobe James and the
Javon Royal.
Jamaican, yeah, from
Yeah.
Jamaica. Yeah, it's
So
it's not right, and this is where when we spoke a bit ago about the how the players lose trust in the board and things, and you'll sort of we mentioned about Shakir Parris not playing and how he loses that sort of element of his direction in terms of being a cricketer. Where does he go and all this? Like this group of players, this is their profession, and they've you look at Ghana, a group of players play one game of 50 over cricket.
you look at Guyana. Guyana batted they batted an innings and they bowled an innings in two separate games,
Yeah.
but they haven't played. And they looked really good when they batted to me. I think what's his name, young Raymond Perez,
Yeah.
obviously Kevlin Anderson,
Yes.
Matthew Nandu, Um, you look at the Windward Islands, they've had some good performances. I think the wicket keeper, what's his name, Dylan Douglas,
Yes.
he looks as though he's someone that understands, I guess, 50 over cricket a bit. I like the guy Ned from the Windward Islands. He scored
Yeah, they're
some
progressive.
valuable runs.
Aggressive.
Obviously, he got that 90 against the Leewards, but he
Yeah.
scored some other valuable runs and bowled some useful medium pace. So he's someone that, they could be looking forward to. They had a young left arm, Seema Murray, as well, that looked an interesting prospect. You look at Trinidad, as I said, going in, Trinidad would have been my favorite sort of dark horse. They've not done anything special. They've just been very consistent. They've
Yeah.
got probably in my experience, in my eyes, the most experienced team, and they've just been extremely consistent. They've just played good professional cricket, um, and that's going to get you through. Obviously, the experience more often than not will get you through against young players in a tournament where teams had so much young players without enough experience or guidance. So I think that the Trinidad Barbados game, depending on I guess if
Well,
Kyle Mills gets off or not, will be a good game.
let's
But
hope it happens.
if he doesn't, I think it'll be pretty much a one-sided affair, and Trinidad should win.
So this might sound like a silly question. This now. So from a Leeward Islands perspective, obviously they're on their way back home. What do their players do now between now and the 4 day stuff starting? What does it look like for them?
I have no idea. It's a completely new system now, completely new setup. So I don't know what their preparation would look
Right.
like. I don't think that the 4 days being played until March as well. So that's quite a long time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You've got all of December, all of January. You're losing what effectively is 3 months. I understand you've got
Yes.
various holidays in season and things, But you're professional athletes at the end of the day. You play two tournaments in terms of from obviously from the franchise perspective a year. It's like, well, what do you do? Where do you go? It's
I have no idea because ultimately you're playing 6.5 weeks of cricket throughout the year,
yeah,
um, which is the bigger block coming up. But as you said, like you've got a 3-month break now. So what do they do? How much do you do before Christmas? Because you're gonna break for Christmas,
yeah,
and your intensity should really be peaking middle of February.
yeah,
So when do you come back in January? How do you prepare? It's going to be interesting to see.
yeah.
I guess I'll find out a bit more as that goes.
Of
But
course.
that's not just for the Leotards. That's for all
Well,
the
it's in general. Yeah,
franchises.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Of course.
I mean, March is a long time away.
It is. It is, and especially when you're talking about, obviously, you'd expect the weather to be a lot better. I'm assuming, obviously, in terms of from the Caribbean in March, it's probably outside of the rainy season. So you're hoping that you don't lose, many games in that period of time. But I was just baffled with the whole. From the outset. I'll be totally honest with you. From the outset, when you lose the two sides that we mentioned, you should be playing more cricket, not less cricket, etc., etc. I don't want to harp on against about all that again, but this is you're trying to identify, in my opinion anyway, from a 50 over perspective, you're looking towards the next World Cup. You're trying to identify plays, you're trying to identify roles. We all know what works in 50 over cricket, so you're identifying that. You can't identify anything based on this, what's just taken place. It's just a waste.
You've basically so you've ultimately gone from not having a 50 over tournament in because you can't count this one. So you've got to look from last year's
Yeah.
tournament until next year's tournament. So you've just had basically a 2-year window.
But are they going to learn from it going into 2026?
Well, the president has just become an elected member of government in St. Vincent, so I'm not sure how much time he has on his hands to
Well,
rectify West Indies cricket issues, but we'll find out.
we definitely will. Well, brilliant to catch up, Kai. Do let us know in terms of what you thought of Kieran's 11 for the first test. Do let us know what you think in terms of the test series, how you see it panning out, positives you'd like to see. And then obviously the conversation we had about the T20 World Cup. Do let us know in terms of what you see, them in the games that they mentioned from the group stage perspective. And also just to finish, let us know what you thought about the whole the unfortunate Super 50 series. But yeah, do let us know. And thank you very much for joining us for another episode of the PowettPlay Podcast. Thank you.